that we're at in Florida. My kids have made forts, and they're having a bit of fun here. But yeah, just chilling in the garage. The internet's actually out here, so the signal seems actually pretty good. So let me know if you guys tune in, if you can get the stream and jump in and smash the like button. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what I've been thinking about the last couple of days, which is one, I'm going to relocate to the Bahamas. And it's not what you think. I plan to spend around, so you need to have 90 days in the Bahamas with a primary residence there to qualify for tax residency. And as long as you don't spend more than 182 days in any other country, you can be a tax resident in the Bahamas only. I will continue to be a Canadian citizen, keep my Canadian passport, but revoke any tax implications by no longer being a tax resident of Canada. So I have to stay out of Canada 182 days is sort of the goal. But hey, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that, McKeever. I don't mean to do it at the same time, but I've been going for 4 years at this time. Wednesday at 7 p.m., that's my time slot. Freedom Convoy, though, for real. Anyone watching this, just a quick plug. There is a huge convoy of truckers, the largest in the world, actually, traveling across Canada and making its way to Ottawa. And I believe it's 400 truckers long, getting longer. I know personally dozens of people going to Ottawa to stand for the anti-mandates. Many of them are vaccinated, many of them are, pro-safety, but the mandates make no fucking sense. If you look at the science behind a lot of what's going on, Trudeau is making decisions based on not science, or at least a focus on absolute safety and more of a division, creating a division and a rift in Canada. So don't love it. If I was in Canada and not in Florida right now, I'd be there in Ottawa supporting. I believe these mandates make no sense. Regardless, I'm leaving. I'm done. I will be spending 9 months a year between probably the US and Canada, assuming I can even get back into Canada, while living with tax residency in the Bahamas is sort of the plan. You need 90 days in the Bahamas to be a tax resident there. And as long as you don't spend more than 182 days, I believe, in any other country, you're good. So I get to spread my other 9 months out wherever I'd like, but I will be investing and going to the Bahamas. I'm taking a trip there. We've decided in 3 weeks. So, give you guys an update. I have COVID. I had rapid antigen tests that proved we'd all had COVID. We went and got PCR tests. Those came back that we indeed do have COVID. So if you're not sure if we had it, we 100% had it. I was on day 2, I think, last Wednesday. Now I'm on day 9 or 10 of COVID. Today I'm on day 10 of COVID. I was on day 3. I'm on day 10 of COVID. And it was a bad sore throat. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was, I'm just going to rest here on the garage floor on this washing machine. COVID was rough. It wasn't easy. It definitely, it did come with its, really bad sore throat, headache, muscle aches, all those types of things. But I'll tell you this much. Good sleep, zinc, vitamin D, a lot of vitamin D. I was on a therapeutics regime that basically made it a non-issue for us. We recovered, we're fine. We were unvaccinated. I am now immune. I can fly, I can do whatever I want. For the next 6 months, I'm considered to be immune. I can do whatever I want now. I have natural immunity now to COVID. Studies are saying it lasts between 12 and 15 months. I had COVID already in the start of 2020, so this is the second time that I've got COVID. And guess what? It's not a big fucking deal. 99% of people that get COVID are just fine. 99.9% of people that get COVID who are under 75 are just fine. You don't die from this unless you have many other comorbidities, as well as being old and having deficiencies in selenium or zinc or vitamin D. Those increase your fold of complication 9 times. And no doctors are like, hey, let's get them on a vitamin D drip. Let's get them on 800% of zinc tablets that you should be taking. A lot of things they could do to mitigate symptoms, but that's not in their arsenal. And that's a shame, because a lot of the therapeutic treatments, a lot of the natural treatments severely reduce all of the negative crap that goes along with COVID. So here I am, COVID survivor, twice now, but it was the common cold. So Interestingly, my kids, after one day, my kids were fully recovered. This doesn't faze kids at all. So this bullshit about closing down schools and vaccinating kids aren't suffering from this. One day. The flu is worse. RSV is worse. There are many other things we could have closed our schools down for years and years ago. In fact, you hope your kids get COVID instead of the flu that's going around right now, instead of even RSV or some of the other things that are going around right now. They are more deadly. Look at the data. If you isolate and remove the oldest quartile of people, it's not a pandemic. It is a pandemic if you're old or you have many health issues, in which case the vaccine is amazing. The vaccine will reduce your chances of dying. Do that. It's not that effective. It's like 40 to 50% effective. It does something. Guess what's even more effective? All the things I just mentioned. There are a lot of therapeutic, both natural and man-made therapeutics like ivermectin and a number of other things you can do that, and I'm not going to plug those because I think the natural therapeutics are a better solution. They worked very well myself. I know lots of other people who are using the natural therapeutic method and doing very, very well, who have recovered just fine. So I have still some symptoms. You can hear a little bit in my throat. I have a little bit of a sore throat left, a little bit in my chest. I had every single COVID symptom, and it was fairly severe. Like I had the diarrhea, the headaches, the massive muscle aches. I had the chest. I had the worst sore throat I've ever had. I had the sinus stuff. Every single symptom listed on the COVID form, I had it. PCR test confirmed, rapid antigen test confirmed, 100% had COVID. Not a big deal. Life goes on. Like everyone's watching the fear porn on the news and they think it's the most scary thing ever. It's not. It's just not. It's an overreaction. Let's go truckers, 100%. I'm glad the truckers are the only people who are going to stand up and put a rally together. Like Canadians are so passive. I wish we'd put a vote out. And if it's true, Justin Trudeau got on and said that the trucker group and the Freedom Convoy and the potentially 500,000 people that are going to storm Ottawa, if they are, the minority, and they're going to storm it in the snow, in the freezing cold in January. So for every one that drives to Ottawa and goes through this, I'm sure there's 10 other people like me that won't be there that support them. But if we are the minority and Canadians like mandates up the ass, like mandate me harder, daddy, if that's the kind of people live in Canada, I'm out. Like, you're not my kind of people. I don't believe that in my heart. I think a lot of Canadians are vaccinated or not vaccinated and don't support mandates. They don't support closing restaurants and locking down for people who've already had COVID, who are literally immune, or for healthy young kids who are not going to be affected by this at all. A lot of it's the unions, the teachers' unions. Teachers never want to work, so the unions are always trying to find a way to, go on strike or try to get more money. Or it's never really about your kids' education. That's the truth. Coming from a dad of 3 kids, I've not seen a focus on the kids. It isn't about them. In this case, it's also not really about absolute safety and health in a lot of cases. It's about ushering in a surveillance state where Trudeau and the Liberals can track where you go. When you go to eat, they want to know. When you go, see like at a concert, they want to know where you're going, and they want you to check in all the time. They want that social credit system that China has. He looks envious on that communist regime. I'm going to be out. I'm not going to be part of that. I love Canada. I will still visit as long as I'm allowed to visit. I will keep my Canadian citizenship. There are a lot of great people in Canada. I don't know who's going to pay the enormous tax bill that Trudeau has created. He will try to use inflation to pay the bill on all of the tax deficits that he's created. He'll try to print his way out and then tax that gain that he's created through inflation, specifically in real estate and a number of other sectors. But it's not great. Okay, let's see. Let's read through the questions here. William says, Mike, my son has a bunch of Canadian border questions. Are you willing to answer some questions from him? Sure, shoot here. I'm happy to answer if I can. Let's see here. Canada's cold anyway. True. Most affluent Canadians don't spend the winter in Canada. So most of the wealthy and affluent Canadians who have the option to leave do leave already. To make a tax residency somewhere else means you need to spend more than 6 months out. Most Canadians snowbird who are wealthy and affluent between 4 and 5 months a year. So to add an extra month out, it's like, I'm not doing anything that extreme. I'm literally doing all the affluent and wealthy Canadians already do. It's just, I'm taking it a little bit further, like moving to the Bahamas as an example, where there is no income tax, no capital gains tax, no crypto tax, no corporate tax, no payroll tax, no nothing. There is no tax. Do whatever you want. No inheritance tax, nothing. Like, earn whatever you want. We're not going to take any of it. And on your primary residence in the Bahamas, no property tax. That's amazing. The only downside about the Bahamas is that it has a short, rainy hurricane season, which once every 8 years does do a lot of damage. And there was, hurricane in 2018, I think it was Hurricane Dorian, that did a lot of damage. You can just buy hurricane insurance. We're talking about the same amount as like property tax in most cases. It's about the same as property tax. And since you don't pay property tax as a resident in the Bahamas, you just take what you would have paid in property taxes anywhere else in the world and put it towards hurricane insurance. And you can profit on the next hurricane, because a lot of the people, I was reading a lot of testimonies about how the hurricane went down. A lot of people got payouts for more than the building was worth through the hurricane. So a lot of real estate investors made a lot of money because the insurance covered everything. So that's something to think about. There's risk, and you can mitigate that risk. You can, more than mitigate, you could profit from said risk. And I don't want to spend the rainy season in the Bahamas. Like, there's a good 9 months a year where the Bahamas is beautiful. And there's 3 months a year where it's rainy season. Same with Florida. Like, Florida's shit during rainy season. I don't want to live in Florida during the rainy hurricane season. No, you go somewhere else. And if you're affluent, you can afford to take all your vacation during that time. That is what it is. The tax savings for me are going to be probably $400,000 or $500,000 a year. So there's nothing I can't have with that much tax savings. There's nothing I can't buy. Health insurance, I already pay for anything that goes, like dental. Dental's not covered in Canada at all. That's part of your health. I had a surgery with an issue with didn't get covered as well. There was a cyst or something that I had to get from a wisdom tooth removal that I had to take care of. That was out of pocket. Eye stuff, not covered at all anyway. Hearing, not covered at all. Most of the medical surgeries, you're on the wait list dying. Like, people die on the wait list in Canada. Healthcare sucks in Canada. And by the way, I pay for 50 people's healthcare coverage in Canada. I could take the money I'm paying in tax, put that towards some real quality healthcare, get a better healthcare, better quality of healthcare, quicker treatment, just all around net savings. Obviously, having some health insurance is important. So in the Bahamas, I'll have to buy, or if I choose Florida, I'll probably spend, my main residence be the Bahamas, spend a lot of time across in Florida. It's a 45-minute plane ride, 45-minute boat. It's not far, right? Like, we're talking like driving to a neighboring city. It's not far. I could realistically spend 3 days in the Bahamas and 4 days in Florida, go back and forth. Spend half the week in Florida and civilized world, half the week on the weekends. From Friday to Monday, go to the islands and just enjoy, right? Like, there's lots of ways to slice it up so it doesn't feel like you're losing your creature comforts, right? And then the summers in Canada are beautiful. Like, I grew up on Lake Huron, just, in Sarnia-Lambton area towards Grand Bend. Some of the most beautiful waters. They actually, in, the nicest of the summer days, the beaches there are more picturesque than the Bahamas. Beautiful. Canada's a beautiful country. It just has a horrible economic policy outlook, as well as, hey, if I follow your channel, I live in the Bahamas. Let's connect. I'm going to the Bahamas next month. I'm going to be relocating. So my primary residence will be in the Bahamas. I will set up corps in the Bahamas. Initially, I will transition out of Canada. I will have to flow through some of the profits in my corporations to corporations I'll create in the Bahamas, which have no tax because it's a tax haven. The active corps would then take, like, I would do consulting work and things like that through my corporations in the Bahamas. And so I would funnel any income that way. So there are structures you can use. A lot of, large companies like Johnson & Johnson and a lot of pharmaceutical companies, et cetera, and so forth, they headquarter in the Bahamas. And then they do business in Canada and the United States for a reason. There is no corporate tax there. That's a huge advantage. Anyway, but hey, right on. So you're moving to Ottawa. I mean, that's, I will say this much. Looks like the furnace just turned off. I will say this much, guys. I love Canada. I was born there. I know all the tax laws there fairly well. I understand all of the regulations of real estate and et cetera and so forth. So I have a familiarity with Canada and the people there, and I love Canada. I will say though that if you make more than $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, more than that, Canada becomes very, very expensive. The tax you have to pay, and it's getting worse, by the way. They're getting rid of the capital gains, exclusion rates of 50%, or removing it now down to 25%, which basically means it's 75% effective. It's, and by the way, Matt, thanks for watching. Matt Varga, great guy. If you can get a house that's in $1.5 million primary residence, no property taxes, just take the money you would have paid in property tax, pay for hurricane insurance, profit on the next hurricane. That's what a lot of people do. They profit down there on the hurricane. So you're kind of hoping for a hurricane to get the insurance money, back and then some, and then hopefully improve your property over time. So it's really an opportunity. But yeah, you need 90 days down there. So 90 days in the Bahamas. And if you have $1.5 million primary residence there, you are a tax resident there. And you can keep your Canadian citizenship. You just don't want to be a resident. So stay out of Canada more than 182 days, and you're not a resident. You're good. You're a Canadian citizen. You have a Canadian passport. You live in the Bahamas, so you're a resident there. But then you could spend 9 months outside of the Bahamas if you wanted to. You could split your time between, say, like West Palm Beach or Miami or one of the nice east coastal Florida towns. Have a house there, have a house in the Bahamas, and then still go back and visit family in Canada or wherever in the summer. Got lots of flexibility, lots of options. You don't have to lock yourself into the Bahamas, but it seems great. People seem really nice. If you choose the right islands, crime rate's very low. There are a lot of comforts. It's a first world amenities level of comfort if you're wealthy. So yeah, there's just lots of opportunity too in the Bahamas. It feels like things move a little bit slower there. So for someone that moves fast, Julian, thanks for that. I'm trying to downplay the fact that the Bahamas gets wiped out every 10 years by a hurricane, statistically speaking. I'm trying to look at it as a positive, right? If you protect yourself, and you don't stay there during the hurricane. They recommend you leave, and you leave your stuff behind. And whatever happens. You have insurance that covers it all. So you're not trying to profit, but you will get back your insurance premiums, that's for sure. So I look at it like property tax that you can dip into if an emergency happens. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Yeah, so it doesn't seem that bad to me. I think there's ways around a lot of it. So exactly, build back better. Anyway, so thank you for your comment. Appreciate that you're watching this, I guess. I'm reaching out to people who maybe don't normally follow me, so cool. Truck Frudo. I don't even know what that, I hadn't heard of that one before, but I don't align with his views, but I do think he's I wouldn't use dictator to be the word, but I don't know. He's definitely a bit of a psychopath. Thanks, William. Yeah, I do feel a lot better. COVID is definitely on day 10 now. I'm feeling a lot better. Wasn't a big deal to begin with. I'm young, so I have the equivalent chance of succumbing to hospitalization and death as a 60-year-old vaccinated person. The problem is the vaccine's giving people a false sense of security. It helps a little bit, for sure. There's no doubt. Does it have a chance of negative side effects? Yeah, very, very small. You should probably get vaccinated if you're over 40 years old. But it should be your choice. You shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be your job. You lose your job or get vaccinated. You can't go in and fucking go buy groceries in Walmart in Quebec. That's just crazy what's going on. You literally in Canada right now, the mandates are such that you can't even if you're a contractor, you can't walk into a Home Depot and buy materials to go work. You can't go to your place of work. They're like, yeah, it's a choice. Choose to get vaccinated if you want, but if you choose not to, you'll starve. That's not choice. That's forced vaccination. That goes against the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, against any constitution, and against anything that's moral or right. Absolute safety. Anyway, I wish that, I don't wish that. That's an evil thing to say. Trudeau and his fellows should experience COVID and see that it's not that bad, and look at some of the data and just dig into that science, that data, and protect those who are at risk. Old people or people who have a lot of health issues, they need vaccination and they need to be quarantining themselves, or they need to take the choice. They need to make an educated choice. I'm not going to say that they can't go out, because old people shouldn't be going out right now. They're taking bigger risk. It's a larger risk, admittedly. Young people and kids have no risk. They're locking down children in schools and trying to vaccinate children that don't need to be vaccinated to protect old people. That's a fact. Old people who should be vaccinated anyway, and if the vaccine works, then they'll be fine. Unfortunately, the vaccine doesn't work that well, and that's why they're worried. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Does Canada recognize getting COVID and building your own antibodies to travel in and out, or do you have to be vaccinated? That's a good question, Paul. I'm not sure. I know coming back into Canada, if you can show a positive test and a letter from a healthcare professional saying you've recovered from COVID and confirming that you had it, as well as a PCR test showing that you had it, which I don't know why the healthcare professional letter is needed, but then you are allowed to travel back in without quarantine, because for 6 months, they consider you to be equivalent to being vaccinated. The data suggests that someone who's been vaccinated 90 days ago, so 3 months ago, vaccinated, has much worse antibodies than someone who's had COVID a year ago. So what we know is that natural immunity is way fucking better. It sucks to get it, like it sucks to get COVID, but I'm now immune. So the mandate shouldn't apply to me because I have natural antibodies. And as long as I can show proof of natural antibodies, I should be allowed to do whatever the fuck I want. Because guess what? I'm immune to it now. And this talk about transmission rates aren't dropped significantly whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Asymptomatic, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, there's almost no difference in transmission. So you're not saving lives, saving people around you. If you're vaccinated, you can fucking kill your grandma too. You go to lunch and you eat out because you're vaccinated, you're all good. You're fucking killing people too. So this narrative about like unvaccinated people killing people, that's messed up. Transmission rates, look at the fucking data. This isn't a dangerous thing. It's a really bad cold. And if you're old, you've got to be careful. You've got to get vaccinated and do what you can to protect yourself. And we should try to protect those who are at risk, who are older, who are, who have those severe, who will have those severe reactions. Say they have, really bad asthma and, a number of other deficiencies, then they would be someone we want to protect. And I think that we need to invest in treatment of these people so they don't die, so that they live. There's a lot of things we can do so that the outcome isn't severe. And mandates don't need to be one of them, specifically not for healthy people and specifically not at the cost of so many lives, because people are getting fucked. Suicide rates are high, overdoses are high, depression's at all-time highs. Economically, we're fucked. Inflation is through the roof as they continue to print money, and economically, we are not okay. Those mandates come with big costs, and maybe you are saving a few lives. Maybe. If you shut down highways tomorrow, if you shut down every highway where someone can drive faster than 60 kilometers an hour, you would save lives. Because people wouldn't kill each other in car accidents. Car accidents are real, more people are dying of car accidents than are dying of COVID, especially healthy people. So do we shut down highways? No one can drive for absolute safety. Think of these analogies through. That's basically what it feels like to me. So the cure is worse than the disease. Agree, Mark. Let's go back and talk about real estate. Let's talk about personal finance. Talk about the stock market. Guys, if you're watching the stock market today, our boy Jerome Powell, when he spoke today, he turned the green to red. Pissed me off. Pissed me right off. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, like Rosehart, you would know that I experienced an $800,000 loss. I lost $800,000 of unrealized losses. Actually realized losses because I locked in $600,000 of it because I want the tax write-off. My year end for my corp, my trading active corp for options and stock trading is January 31st. So I'm locking in these losses. It's great. And I'm gonna have a huge gain in my new year. And I'll get a tax credit back. 50% of it is going to come back to me because I'm an active trader. I'm going to write off against all of my gains from last year and pay no tax. So I'm so thankful. Timing-wise, could have been a better time to dip. So glad I could lock in those losses. I rolled my contract, so I didn't lock in. I'm still going to ride it back up, but I locked in on those specific contracts within this year and wrote new ones. That way I could realize these losses and get a nice tax credit from Uncle Sam. I guess Uncle Trudeau in this specific example. But what's going to happen with the stock market? What we know is that inflation is running rampant. It isn't transient. Growth stocks do not do well as interest rates rise. And to beat inflation, you need to taper. So you need to stop stimulating the economy and pull back. And you need to raise interest rates, which decreases economic productivity of businesses. Because when interest rates are rising, people tend not to spend. When interest rates rise, people tend not to invest in the future. And that just results in a shitty stock market for growth and for overall advancement of human society. We want the economy to be able to raise a lot of capital so we can invest in things like neural implants. Not that I'm a fan of neural implants that Elon Musk is all about, but technological advancement has generally been good for human life expectancy. And it sucks to not grow. Humans love growth. So the stock market has been rough. Hang in there, guys. There are a lot of quality names like Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Google that are trading at ridiculously low price to earnings ratios when you consider relative to their peers, like say Coca-Cola, that is more of a non-innovator, let's call them. And I feel like Amazon has a better chance of taking over the world than Coca-Cola does. But when you look at the PE ratios, it's out of whack right now. I would say Amazon is on sale as an example. In the last 1 year, Amazon is currently down, I think last I checked, it was like 6% or 8% on the year. Not up. Like in the last 1 year, if you held Amazon, you'd be down. The same is true for a lot of other companies out there right now. There's a lot of stuff on sale, a lot of quality, I consider them quality names, that are on sale at massive discounts. By the way, sorry for the camera shakiness. I'm literally holding this with my bare hand and I don't have my dongle. I forgot it at home. So I'm doing all these with my phone live. And I understand the quality suffers as a result, but it is what it is. Okay, next question. What are your favorite Canadian dividend stocks? I've got a list. I'd have to go check the list that I currently hold in my dividend portfolio. My dividend portfolio right now is actually up on the year, up on the last 6 months even, up on the last 3 months even. I have names like, I have the big bank stocks like TD, Scotia, BMO. I have the insurance names in there, the Canadian insurance companies. I've got the Canadian oil companies like Suncor in there. I've got, like Fortress Paper in there. I've got some utility plays like, and I've got the telco stuff as well, like TELUS and Bell and Rogers, Shaw. I don't play favorites. I don't try to pick. My advisor does on that portfolio. He gives me some recommendations, and we do buy some of the stuff that he likes. But it's pretty much a collection of like 80 quality blue chip dividend companies that are Canadian eligible because there is a tax advantage to collecting dividends from Canadian companies. As currently, while I'm a Canadian resident, if I change to being only in Canada a few months a year, then my portfolio is going to change. Obviously, I'm going to be investing in different asset classes. But yeah, I mean, it's my options portfolio, which is about the same size as my blue chip dividend portfolio. That portfolio is down 800,000 right now. Not down 800,000 from all time, about 900,000 from all time highs, but a lot of those are unrealized gains anyway that I've lost. So it's like, I'm not crying over it. It will come back. In a few months, we'll be fine. 6 months, a year, whatever, 5 years from now, I'm not worried, right? It's one of those things where if you hold a quality company that produces quality cash flow and you believe in it long term, you don't look at the day-to-day. You don't worry about that. That said, there are ways that I could have traded, say, the S&P 500, 25% out of the money. Right now, on these down days, it was actually paying very well, like 2% a month annualized, to ensure the market at a 25% dip. Meaning, if it doesn't dip 25%, you get just the 2% a month. If it dips, you may have to agree to buy the market at a 25% discount, plus the 2% a month. So you'd probably be buying like a 27% discount. That's when you want to be buying anyway. That's when we save our margin, is for these times of dip. I haven't dipped enough that I would go balls to the wall on margin, but keep some gunpowder aside. Same with Bitcoin, Ethereum, the crypto market. Hold back. I would say now is not the time to go hard and buy everything, but I would nibble because it may turn up, and you don't want to miss those gains, right? Fear of gains is the worst. Okay. Is now a good time to tap into the equity in my rentals? Yes, 100%. If you own real estate in Canada, it's up 30% year to date. You should tap into that equity, refinance it, put it to work. I should follow my own rules and refinance my own house and take some capital out now before things level off. I'm extremely bullish on real estate in the next 4 months. I am really bearish on real estate in the 9 to 12 months. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and see exactly what I think about that. But basically, part of what I already talked about rising, inflation being out of control and how do we deal with inflation? Well, we have to let some air out of the bag, right? Interest rates have to rise. There has to be less stimulus. That results in shit for real estate. That does very poorly on the real estate market. Every 1% you rise interest rates, real estate falls 10 to 15%, right? As if we experience deflation, you can have some real issues. I think the more likely scenario is we see a flat real estate market for like 10 years where real estate investors can actually start losing money again. Because right now, it's like we have cheat codes on. And no matter what you buy, you can't lose money in real estate. So I don't know. I kind of miss having the chance to actually lose money in real estate. You literally do nothing. No matter what you do and you make money. It's kind of boring to watch everyone just make a whole bunch of money in real estate. But anyone who's owned real estate the last 5 years is like a millionaire, multimillionaire. Like everyone I know is a multimillionaire now. Just stupid how easy it was to make money. Yeah. Next question. Justice Center just launched a lawsuit suing the Canadian government for violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms over the travel vaccine mandate. Good. That's great. It is a violation, and someone should take them to court, and there should be someone held accountable for all of this. Matt, you should, 100%. I mean, yeah, you could choose to have your money stay here. If your money stays in, you mean in the Bahamas? Yeah, it's probably a smart idea. The problem is, as soon as you become a Canadian tax resident, any income you make in the Bahamas, the Canadian government wants a piece of that. So if you make $40,000 or $100,000 in the Bahamas, guess what? The Canadian government wants $40,000 of that. And if you don't declare it, that's tax fraud, and they'll throw you in jail. Canada be like, fuck you, they're gonna throw you in jail over it. So you gotta be really careful. The Canadian government wants their money, and they tax worldwide income. So staying in Canada as your primary residence is dangerous if you make good money. If you don't make good money, if you make less than 100 grand a year, if you can get 50,000 per partner in dividend income, you pay zero tax in Canada. If you're poor in Canada, it's weird now that I'm so entitled, or not entitled, but like I've had so much success and been around so many people who are successful that I consider 100 grand a year to be poor. Especially with the way inflation's kind of moving. Like if you make 100 grand a year in Canada, you're like barely middle class. But 100 grand a year, if you could retire on that, I could still live on that, no problem. It wouldn't meet my goals for growth, but I could totally do it. My phone's gonna die. Let's put this in here. You guys here with me? Oh shit. This plug's dead. Of course this rental has a dead plug here. That's what you get for $3,300 US a month in Florida. I get a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house with a nice little pool and spa, but the plug in the garage doesn't work. Forget this. Anyway, I guess we have like 10, 15 minutes left. My battery's at 19%, 18%, and the last 10% always just dies on this phone. So we'll be together as long as we can. Yuri says, for how long do you think this crazy real estate market will be going to the moon? It seems like it should be impossible to pay $1 million mortgage for the average family in Ontario or BC, or is everyone just moving to Alberta? Yuri, I like that. I like that honest look at the numbers. Yes, the majority of Canadians can't afford rent. The majority of Canadians cannot afford the mortgage payments. More than half of Canadians, slightly over half of Canadians, already own a home. And so they've ridden this ride up. And you've got to remember that when there's so many people that already own a home, they don't feel it. When their house is appreciated and they move to a new house, they already rode the ride up. So a lot of Canadians don't feel it. They just have a lot of equity and they're wealthy. They're like the average person in Vancouver or Toronto is a millionaire. Anyone who owned a house in the last 5 years is a millionaire. If it's on like an average house in most of the major metropolitan areas in Canada. It's not sustainable, no. Like young people can't afford to buy homes. We have inflation that's out of control. Incomes are way out of whack now with average house prices. Just look at real inflation. They're calling inflation like 6, 7%, but real inflation is housing's up 30%, rent's up 25%. The average person spends more than half of their budget on just rent and housing. So that means that half of a person's budget last year goes half as far as it did, which is just wild. Food's up in some areas, like you talk about bacon, like pork, meat, up 25, 30, 35%, depending on the store and what you're buying. Some of the organic quality stuff is up 45% year over year, or in the last 14 months. So food, gasoline in your car to heat your home, up again like 20, 30% from a year ago. That's real. Like if you're making 100 grand a year, it's like you're making 75 a year and a half ago. That's how bad it's gotten in Canada. And other places too, like here in Florida, rents are up 30% as well. House prices are to the moon. So there's definitely, inflation's felt in other developing markets too. I think that, I don't know who's gonna foot the bill for all of this destruction that kind of comes with all of this. The government likes inflation, right? You gotta remember that inflation's good for paying off national debt. So if you have huge deficit bills built up, which the Biden administration does, the Trudeau administration does, they love that they're printing their way out of debt, because as their dollar becomes worthless, basically, over time, it eventually will be worthless. It's the biggest crypto shitcoin, right? Like eventually the Canadian and US dollar is worth nothing. If you hold it long enough, it's worth nothing. It continues to go to zero. They target 2 to 3% a year. The last couple of years, we've moved 5 years in 1 year. So we've been moving faster along that trend of it being worth nothing. Eventually, you'll need a lot of dollars to buy almost nothing, when initially you didn't need a lot of dollars to buy things. Does not hold its value very well. They'll continue to inflate it. But as inflation kind of runs rampant, it does destroy the lower and middle class people. The wealthy tend to rise because they use a lot of leverage. They tend to have debt from the banks against their properties, against their businesses. And so because they have so much debt, they actually benefit from inflation. The ultra wealthy class, we actually do very well through inflation to make more money. But the government, like if you have a house worth $100 and the government makes it worth 120 because 20% inflation, it's actually higher than that. This example is really conservative. But you go from $100 to $120. And if you only had a mortgage of, say, $75 on that $100 house, your $25 in equity has now gained to be worth $45. So you've almost doubled your down payment effectively. So this 20% inflation just made you double your money. So you look like a genius, but really did nothing. The government did it for you. But the government is going to take from that gain, they're going to take 50% of that, right? I guess it's really more like 30% effectively, 28% effectively. But after land transfer tax and capital gains tax, et cetera, and so forth. But the government got a slice of that. That's not even real value. They inflated the dollar so that they could take a percentage of your house. Your house is the same physical house, hasn't changed at all. They're just saying that it's worth 125 instead of 100. And they get to take some of that whenever you sell it. If it's a stock, same thing. They actually want inflation. Inflation is very, very good for them. Long term, it's shit for the economy. It's shit for the people, the majority of people. But anyway, let's digress. It's a bit doom and gloom. Let's try to be positive here. I'll go through some more questions. Maybe there'll be something positive in the questions. I don't want to be so, down, because the world's a good place. Like, life's good. Overall, we should be thankful that we don't live in Africa and that we have opportunity to access the internet, and that any one of the people watching this right now can be a millionaire because you have access to the internet. You could watch all of my videos and learn how to do this kind of stuff. Watch other people's videos that are better than mine. There's a lot of people who make way better content than I do. And you could learn from them and emulate them. And emulation is a nice way, copycatting is a nice way to build wealth. What type of visa did you get in the US as Canadian trying to leave ASAP? So Jarko, I'm currently in the US and I'm applying for an E2. There is also I believe it's E5 as well. So you can make a large capital investment and get a right to come into the US. I'm not looking for a green card in the US. I'm looking for an E2 visa, which I can effectively renew for infinity and stay in the States as long as I want as an investor. So I can move in and out of the States as I need to. That was essential because I wasn't sure if I was going to get vaccinated or get COVID. And so I didn't know if I could ever come back to Canada. I was one of the last people to leave who were unvaccinated, and now they've closed the border. So there is no way to get across. I'm now COVID positive, so I have 6 months where I can fly, do whatever I want now. That is one way out. If you're a Canadian, you're like, shit, I can't leave, like without choosing vaccination. And if you religiously or there's moral conviction reasons why you don't want to get it, fine, I respect that. It's not that bad, probably just get the vaccine. But if you really didn't want to, then you could just expose yourself to COVID and then you'd be fine and you can cross. You could show a positive PCR test. There's lots of ways to show a positive PCR test. Are you kidding me? Like have someone else friggin' blowing your nose or something. I don't know, I'm just getting creative here, but I don't know. Yeah, so there are lots of ways to do it. What type of visa did you get in the US as a Canadian trying to leave? I answered that question. Are you keeping your Canadian properties though or selling them off? I'm selling everything off except for my primary residence currently, which I will eventually sell off at some point, as well as a rental property that I have to keep because the mortgage on it is so prohibitive to break out of that I'm stuck with it for another 18 months, and then I'll sell that one. As well as I have a couple of, I have a property that my dad lives in and a property that my mom lives in, which there's emotional stuff there, but I will have to dispose of that as well because I do not want to file a Canadian tax return. So I have to dispose of all of my Canadian personal assets and transfer them elsewhere, or I have to keep filing in Canada as a non-tax resident. So I may continue to file in Canada as a non-tax resident. We'll see. Ideally, I don't have to file any Canadian tax return. It'd be nice to go through tax time and not have to worry about what the fuck I'm doing. Like if I make $1 million in crypto, I don't want the government to take fucking half of that. Are you kidding me? Like if I'm doing private lending inside of the crypto space, I don't want the government to be able to take, and they're considering that an active business. So I'd be paying like 53% effective tax on that, right? Like if I took it from my corp into my personal name. That's ridiculous. If you're a wealthy individual, it makes no sense to stay in Canada. But if you make less than $100,000 a year, Canada's great. There are a lot of great social programs in Canada. And if you have kids in Canada, they give you like $590 a month per child cash, tax-free, if you keep your income below $30,000 a year. Like I have 3 kids. If I just kept my income low on paper in Canada using losses or write-offs or whatever and kept it to $30,000, I would collect almost $2,000 a month cash just because I have 3 children. Like Trudeau's like, let's just try to make people have babies. Like that's what he's trying to incentivize, right? For people to quit their jobs and sit at home. Because if you work, then your effective clawback, right? Your tax rate's 53% in Canada at the top marginal brackets if you're a doctor or a lawyer. There's a story about a lawyer who had 6 kids who quit his job and is making more net than when he worked as a lawyer full time. To sit at home and play World of Warcraft with his kids, his 6 kids or something, right? So there's lots of stories like that. And that's just an abuse of the current system, but it's a reality. And you get what you incentivize. And so they're incentivizing people to have children. They want to bring in a lot of immigrant families who have 6, 7, 8, 10 kids. And they come and they immigrate to Canada and they don't have to work. Or if they work for cash on the side and they don't pay any tax and they just take from the government. There's a lot of takers in Canada, unfortunately. But that means that Canada is a good place for a lot of people. I will never, I mean, maybe, but I don't think I'll ever have a year where I make $100,000 a year. Like that would be such a failure based on my net worth if I made $100,000 a year. That I would have to literally lose like a large percentage of my net worth to be that low again. So maybe I'll come back to Canada. I don't know. Like maybe I'll lose everything and someday end up back in Canada. I don't know. I'm going to keep my Canadian passport and Canadian citizenship. I love Canada. It's familiar to me, but it's very unlikely that I will stay in Canada long term. Very unlikely. Kyle, this has got to get you on Twitch. 100% Kyle. If there's a way I could stream this at the same time on Twitch, that'd be cool. I'd be down for that. What are your favorite Canadian dividend stocks? I answered that question. Do you find South Park Canadian portrayals funny, offensive, or both? Both funny and offensive. Mostly just funny. No, shit doesn't offend me. I'm not a snowflake. I love South Park, by the way. It's just a great show. Just a great show poking fun. I wish they could poke more fun at the COVID situation, but you know, the elite left definitely wouldn't have let that go on TV if they were too satirical with their stuff. Is it a good idea to run the wheel on the SPY and NASDAQ? I think so. The NASDAQ's been beat up quite a bit right now, so it wouldn't even be bad to be 15% of the money on the NASDAQ right now, I think. I'm holding on to some margin still. I'm waiting to see what happens. What are your thoughts on TIF not raising rates? Honestly, it personally doesn't affect me all that much. It keeps the real estate market kind of, it keeps the real estate market on steroids. So for me, personally, I benefit still from the real estate market being, you know, at all-time highs. Whoa, a teacher working, someone says. You know what, there's a lot of teachers that work very hard. I did have some teachers growing up that were awesome. Miss Asa was one of my favorite teachers in grade 5. She was someone who really got me into academics and I started actually caring about the work that I was doing and put me on a different path and trajectory. And I'm thankful. I didn't have a great parental setup at home. I was living with my mom's ex-boyfriend. I didn't have a mom or dad at home. It's like a foster situation, right? So sometimes a teacher can be a great asset. Those teachers are far and few between. Very few of them give any shits. But there are a lot of great teachers out there in Canada, so I don't want to shut on teachers. The teachers union is horrible. The unions focus just on greed, on money, getting time off for teachers and more money for them, and not really about your kids at all. So that's what I don't like. I like teachers for the most part. They work very hard. I wish that some of the leftist teachers would leave their political agenda at home and not be brainwashing my child to wear 2 masks and get a vaccination, and that anyone who's not vaccinated or triple fucking masking and sniffing their own farts is a murderer. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't belong in the classroom. I'm sorry. I think that a child should choose masking or unmasking. Makes no difference, because this is less severe than the common cold for them. So anyway, is now a good time to tap into the equity in your rentals? Yes. Should you hold cash for a bit? I think it's always key to have some cash. I always have gunpowder at all times. We have 500,000 gunpowder ready to go at all times, just in case the world ever blows up. But yeah, I would feel it if the world blew up tomorrow, so I hope it doesn't. Same man, I had every symptom, but I was only sick in bed for maybe a day and a half. Yeah, and having 3 young kids that recovered from COVID almost instantly, that made it really hard, because fatigue was one of the worst symptoms. I was so tired, and my kids were with so much energy that, like, my daughter was up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 8 in the morning. Between the 3 kids, someone was always up. We couldn't get a good restful sleep. That made it really hard. Sleep is so important to recovering and getting through COVID. So, yeah. Should I sell my rental property and buy stocks with that money, since everything is 50% off? Manny, I think that you could refinance your rental property and put a good portion of that capital into a balanced portfolio of 50 or 100 different quality companies. I think that would be not a bad thing to do right now, especially because in interactive brokers, you have that leverage. You could save that for the big dips. But I'm starting to dip into the leverage a little bit. I've used 30% of my available leverage right now, but I'm looking to de-lever. I don't want too much leverage. I don't know what the market's going to do. It could turn and dive between now and March and then come back. But yeah, we'll see. Manny says, I have 4 rentals at the moment. Once I buy 2 more, my wife and son are moving to Mazatlan, Mexico, because it's cheaper than the US. Our cash flow should cover our expenses, and then we just work part-time, 20, 30 hours a week. That sounds amazing. That sounds like a great life. Awesome. I'm getting tired here, guys. Do most of the crossings look like booths with crossing gates? William, yes. And our border person didn't even ask us if we were or not. It was great. There's a lot of border guards who are anti-vax, who don't give a shit about the mandate. So they just don't even ask. Like, go ahead, have a great trip. But it's like 2 minutes at the gates. You could get stopped and spend longer, but I won't be going back to Canada without an E2 visa, probably. I want to have the right to, be a resident in the US if I have to flee Canada. So I'm not going back to Canada without the right to leave Canada. I actually do believe there's a fringe, this is a very unlikely scenario, but there's a fringe chance that Trudeau tries to divide the vaccinated and unvaccinated and tries to throw the unvaccinated in jail or face major fines and locks the borders down. And if I have an E2 visa, I have the right to operate my business in the United States, I can go across regardless of any mandates. So that's important to me, to be able to have residency and go across and have options. Major cities in and around the GTA have imposed strict rules around Airbnb. I've heard London is in talks to do the same. Do you see this happening? I have no idea. They've been talking about Airbnb restrictions for the last 3 years. Currently, London just has a rental licensing program for rentals, which also extends to Airbnb. But the city of London is so overworked right now that I don't know. I don't see them imposing anything right now. But we do have a housing crisis situation right now. They're not building enough because the government doesn't incentivize building. They make it hard. They make it impossible to add units, and the permit process takes a year with COVID to get done. So there are real issues, but eventually things will catch up. Supply chain issues make it worse. Supply chain issues do make it worse. They help stimulate the economy, but they make the housing supply issues more exacerbated. There's an issue on China's side too. What happens to their savings if buildings aren't in good shape, are fairly valued? I feel like there could be wealth losses in 2 large economies. I mean, if that happened, yeah, that could decimate things for sure. It could be a catalyst. What are your thoughts on new builds for the next 5 to 10 years? I'm not bullish on appreciation at all. So most new builds don't cash flow well. And so therefore I'm not bullish on most new builds. Thanks, Kyle, for the comment. If you're hospitalized from COVID, would you change your stance regarding vax? Is there anything that would change your stance? Well, I'm actually pro-vax, and like, I'm not opposed, even the Novavax vaccine when it comes out, I'm not opposed to getting it. I probably will get vaccinated because I don't think these restrictions are going away. If they go away, then yeah, I'm not gonna get vaccinated. I have natural immunity, but after a year and a half, I may consider it. I'm not that worried about it. Like, someone messaged me about that and was like, yo, Mike, like what would happen if like you ended up in the hospital as a result of it? And I was like, what would happen if I got in a car accident and I died? Like, would I be like, fuck cars, I'm never getting in a car on the highway again? Statistically speaking, I have a higher chance of ending up in the hospital when I get in my car than I do from COVID. But that's just data, right? But we're not locking down our highways. We put on seatbelts, we do what we can, right? Same thing, I'll wear a mask when I'm out. You know, I try to avoid people who are sick or have symptoms. And if you have symptoms, I can stay home. Don't spread that shit around. Like, I'm not against people taking precautions. The vaccine should be available to anyone who wants it. I know someone who got the vaccine, second dose, and 4 days later died. They had a heart issue, dead heart tissue, and killed them. So there are people who are dying from the vaccine. I didn't want to expose myself to that risk. It's largely untested. It takes 7 years of trials for us to really know whether a vaccine's effective or not, and whether some of the side effects will be as a result of that. For all we know, it fucks people up in 5 years and a bunch of people get cancer. We don't know. Is the risk to benefit there? For a lot of people, yeah. If you're old already, you're going to die anyway in 10 years. Like, for sure, you should probably take this vaccine. We know that it's not going to kill you right away, and it will prevent you from dying from COVID. So there's a benefit there, clearly. If you have a lot of risk factors, benefit, clearly, right? Like, there is a risk-reward discussion you should be having with your doctor. It shouldn't be mandated. That's for fucking sure. It just gets me so mad. I think that freedom of choice is important. And you will probably see me in the next 2 years, I'll be vaccinated. I'm not anti-vax. The Novavax vaccine is interesting to me. I like that one the most. I don't like any of the available options, and I don't have enough data to be sure right now. I'm currently experiencing natural immunity because I was exposed to it. So it's a non-issue for me right now. For the next 12 months, if I get it again, I'm better than vaccinated. I have a lower probability than being vaccinated. Anyway. Hey, Mike, do you think losing money is part of a humbling process that makes you turn into a better investor? For sure, Danny. When I lost $1.5 million in the summer last year, and even now when I'm feeling these losses, it helps me to, for sure, be a better investor. It helps me to stay steadfast to my investor profile statements. It helps me refine the rules that I use when I trade and when I invest, and look at my portfolio and say, hey, this guy will not survive. Like, some of these companies, I look at them, I'm like, this will not survive a major recession. This company, Peloton as an example, I don't think it would survive a major recession dip. It's a shitty company with okay product that's way overvalued. At $2 a share, $1 a share, sure. But stocks like that, do I want to hold stocks like that through a major recession? No, you got to look at your portfolio and make sure that it's diversified. Make sure that you're not in any one position, more than 3 or 4% of your portfolio, that's for sure. Making sure that you've got the margin available for if things were to dip 30%, run through those Monte Carlo simulations. Like, if the market dips 30% tomorrow, what is that doing to your portfolio, right? Can you handle that? And you run those scenarios in your portfolio and you'll make adjustments. With the surge of population coming in the GTA, do you think this will be the same scenario as San Francisco bubble all over again, but it just doesn't pop? No, I think that, immigration for sure is a catalyst for growth of the stock market and for the local real estate markets. People coming into a country bring capital and they bring economic output. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. My wife just texted me and said it's time to put our kids to bed. So I got to wrap this stream up. My arm is like dead. But even when I was holding it down below, it was like slowly tiring my arm out. I need like a proper dangle that I could hold like this. That would be way better. Yeah, I should probably stop with the bombs. Probably some kids watch this somewhere. It has gone over the top. Honestly, it has. But I really hope that, I hope we look back on this and we realize that we were overreacted and we just didn't have enough information on COVID. And we realized that in hindsight, we were a little too extreme and that this wasn't as dangerous as we might have thought it was. So that's what I hope. I hope we get back to normal. I hope that the world moves on. I think this pandemic will become endemic, meaning that every cold and flu season, we will have a COVID spike in cases and it will be okay. Like the cold and flu season every year kills thousands of people. That just is a reality. And we weren't freaking out watching a death counter every year in 2017, 2018, 2019. No one cared. I mean, we cared. It was horrible. We had bad cold and flu seasons. We had years in 2018, 2019 where the Canadian medical system was overwhelmed and there were no available beds. The same issue that we have now where they're overwhelmed, there are not enough beds. The problem is we just didn't invest in anything in our healthcare system and we put extra strain on it. You need to solve that by applying relief to the medical system, by putting money into the system to expand beds, not firing doctors and nurses. And, anyway, I'm gonna let this go. This continues to be a topic that I'm very passionate about. As you can tell, I can't change the world. You guys have power. Each and every one of you guys have power to voice your concerns. Even if you're vaccinated and you don't support these mandates and lockdowns of the vaccinated and unvaccinated, to reach out. Your voice has power. Share on social media. Your voice has power. That's why I'm talking about this, because it's important. I hope you guys are surviving through this little stock meltdown. 6 months from now, we'll look back and, either we'll feel bad that we didn't buy more or we'll be wishing that the market's about to recover. It always does. 10 years from now, we'll be looking back and wish we would have bought as much as we possibly could. 5 years from now, we'll be looking back and wishing we bought as much as we possibly could of all the quality companies. So keep that in mind. Keep a long-term view. Don't get myopic and short-sighted. All right, everyone, have a good night. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you on Instagram at Mike Rosehart. And remember, 7 to 8 p.m., tune in. I'm always here 4 years in a row now. I've never missed a Wednesday, whether I'm on vacation, Christmas. Doesn't matter. I'm always here. You can rely on me to be here to give you my dish of what's been going on in my world and answer any questions you might have for free. Have a good night, everyone.